actually accompanying a friend to her abortion, so that is what I'm doing.
Shit. That's kind of a heavy fucking situation.
Is it really? I mean, I feel like people say that it's a huge deal, but how big a deal are these things actually? I don't know.
Right, yeah, it's just an abortion. That's silly.
Hi everybody, welcome to Boys Watching Girls. We're just two boys watching HBO's Girls. We're your hosts. I'm Joe Welke.
I'm Vance.
And we just got finished watching episode 2 of Girls. We're going through every episode. We're doing a little recap after every episode because, you know, we're two pop culture junkies and we wanted to expose ourselves to something that we've never experienced before. And neither of us have seen Girls. And we're going through every single episode of Girls.
Yeah, it's the phenomenon that was Girls.
Yeah, we wanted to do something culturally important, and we both remember, and I feel like everybody remembers, there was a lot of talk around this show. Yeah. So we wanted to go through it, and today's episode that we just finished watching is episode 2. Episode 2 is titled Vagina Panic.
Vagina Panic.
Vagina Panic. Getting right into it. It's directed by Lena Dunham, written by Lena Dunham. It first aired April 22nd, 2012 with 0.858 million viewers. So 850,000 viewers.
And this is a follow-up question. Was that more or the same as the pilot?
It is less than the pilot.
Less than the pilot?
Less than the pilot.
Okay.
Vance, what are your feelings after this first reactions to? We literally just finished watching this. We walked over to where we record this and immediately started recording. What are your first thoughts?
I'm surprised it ended where it ended up.
Same.
I thought it ended with one of those cliffhangers that I didn't expect from, like, it wasn't a powerful, it was like, okay, where's the next couple scenes before this ends?
Yeah. It felt incomplete.
Yeah, and I felt like the pilot, being the pilot, wrapped up itself really well.
Yeah, it wrapped up. It had a good, like, button. It, you got a good sense of what the show is going to be.
Yeah.
This one, I was just like, oh, it's over?
Yeah, it was like, okay, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, the episodes, a little hitter. It's a little miss. It's a miss for me. This one's a miss for me. But it's they're dealing with some subject matter that's, like, you know, it's not.
It's important subject matter.
But I don't know the way they approach it and just that opening scene. I think we just got to go from the beginning.
All right. Well, we're gonna get in basically scene by scene of this episode as well as we can remember it. But episode 2, right from the get-go, first thing you see, Lena Dunham, fucking Adam Driver, Hannah fucking Adam. Hannah's her character's name. And boy, is Adam Driver a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, he's going, you always can tell the HBO show when they're just going in hardcore with the sex talk and dirty sex talk, which just starts out, and we're kind of left off where the couch was, where he wanted her to turn over, and it was a little more tamer on the couch. He just wanted her to just follow directions, and she wanted the small talk. This one was him trying to live out a fantasy that is disturbing regardless of what, you know?
Yeah, it was just, like, so detailed, too.
Kidnapping, pedophilia.
He's like, you're 11. I saw you on the street. You're a junkie.
Yeah.
And I kidnapped you. And he's just, like, pushing her face away and stuff.
Yeah.
It was so uncomfortable to watch. Also, they're having, like, a full conversation while they're having sex.
Yeah, she's fully on. And this is what I realized from this episode that I didn't get from the pilot, because I only know Lena Dunham from just, like,
being a
interviews
celebrity
and stuff like that, and being a celebrity and being Lena Dunham.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, Lena Dunham's going to be herself. But in this show, she's kind of more of a passive person altogether. Like, she later mentioned she's only had sex with, like, 2.5 people or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, this is why she's how she is.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down is, like, why would anyone continue to, like, go over to this guy's house? Because it's so grimy and awful. Like, their sex and their conversations is just so terrible.
Yeah, this isn't her, like, safe place, but this is her, like, her hookup that she knows she can get.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't even know why she's hooked. Like, I wrote down, I don't know why she comes back to his place, because it's like she doesn't seem to enjoy it. Like, it seems like she said, like, oh, I almost came.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, before these characters' lives, before the show started, maybe he was a sexual dynamo and was like giving her the good fucking business, you know what I'm saying?
well, that takes us to the next scene, which we see Marnie with her boyfriend, and they're having the complete opposite experience, and it's the most passive, like
he's
missionary
like,
style, not moving really. And she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna bend over. I want you to do me doggy style," and then he's doing it, and he's just like not.
Yeah. Well, they also have like an argument about why, like, you hate doggy style. Why do you want to do doggy style? She's like, I don't hate doggy style. Blah blah blah.
You said it makes you feel like a piggy bank. She said it makes me look like a piggy bank or something like that. And you're just like, okay, so we get the contrasting things, but none of them are ideal.
No. I mean, obviously the ideal. You know when they say like you hear two different sides of the story and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, this is two very extreme cases of sex. Yeah. And I think that you pointed out last time, and like one of your theories is that Marnie is going to have sex with Adam.
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast. I have a feeling that Marnie's going to hook up with Adam at some point. And I got that vibe from just like her style and him in a pilot, and now this one contrasting that, you're like, you kind of want to see what would happen if the two of them. Yeah.
I didn't believe you when you first said it. You were like, I think that she's going to hook up with Adam. I was like, no way. And then watching this, I was like, if she does hook up with Adam, dude, I would feel like such gossipy. If she does hook up with Adam, oh God, we're going to be changed people.
Oh, this show's going to change our lives. This is it.
If she does hook up with Adam, my theory is that she's going to hate it. Because she's like, oh, this is what I want. And then when she finally gets the real dirt and grime of it, she's going to be like, oh my God, I feel terrible, like a used piece of trash. I need to go back to Charlie, who loves me. And then Charlie will have Charlie's her boyfriend.
Charlie's her not going to do it. Leaves. I lost a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that happens. We'll see. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see. For me, if they hook up, it's going to be interesting to see how Hannah deals with it. That's the only thing. Just throw that wrench into that. But
I just don't. I will say that Adam's line of like, hey, you want a Gatorade after they have sex, that got me. That was pretty funny.
He had another line there. That was, the one on Gatorade. It was some other line probably later in the episode that I thought was funny. Oh, I think it's the next scene with him. Because after that sex scene, he comes back and... No, we're skipping over. Jessa is with Shoshana.
Yeah, and she's smoking weed outside the window.
And that's when we learn that she's planning to get an abortion.
Yeah, because last episode, there was the big reveal that she's pregnant. Yeah. Which I said I don't believe is happening.
You said you don't believe she's pregnant.
I don't believe she's pregnant. Anyway, so moving on. I wrote down that this one thing that I will say about this show is it is beautifully shot. It is very cinematic. The colors are all very they pop.
And I will say they do the apartments look like New York apartments. I mean, they filmed it in New York, but the sets that they built are like exactly like New York apartments. Yeah, it's the same thing.
The authenticity is pretty great.
Broad City does that well too. Like, you're not in your friend's Seinfeld apartment buildings. These are people in their 20-somethings. This is what your apartment looks like.
Yeah, they got kind of shitty apartments. Like, that's all they can afford. But like the color palettes are very good, and it's like all this soft lighting. It's just very pleasing to the eye. Yeah. And, this episode, no one was eating anything. So I was
was disappointed because I wanted your reaction to someone eating.
Dude, I watched I was watching a YouTube video today about photography, and one of the things that they were taking a picture of was a guy eating a cupcake. And I think I found out that I hate watching people eat because it grossed me out.
So you're learning about yourself watching this show.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully...
How did the milk mustache later in this episode?
That was weird. Yeah, that was weird. But hold on, before we get to that.
We'll get to that.
So they do the Shoshana and Jessa conversation, getting an abortion. Then we get back to Adam Driver and Lena Dunham. That is the next thing that's going on, and
she kind of makes a reference to his like junkie 11-year-old kidnap thing.
Yeah,
and he's like in the bedroom. He's like, "What?"
He's like, "What the fuck are you
He
talking
completely as if he had blacked out that night. And like, has no recollection of that.
Yeah, because he asked her like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "Don't you know? I'm going home to covered in cum to my parents. Remember, and it's your cum." And I was like,
he's
okay,
like, "What?"
This is awkward, but it's like pretty funny.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, it's funny because it's interesting how like that's a big deal. Like it matters so much more to her than it does to him. Like to him, it's like an afterthought. Like he doesn't care. We just.
I mean, he's probably fucking so many other people,
and he implies that.
Yeah,
because he's like, oh yeah, no girl's ever asked me to. And I thought it was interesting because it ties into the pilot. Where she's like, hey, get a condom. And he's joking like, oh, maybe. Yeah. You know, and you're like, what? She's letting that happen? And then this episode, right in that scene, she's like, yeah, you know, she starts talking about Jessica getting an abortion. She's taking it lightly. And she's like, she said something.
Well, she was like, oh, we're going to go get an abortion. And he was like, wow, that's a big fucking deal. Yeah. And she's like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think that we should portray it like that. Yeah. And she actually feels like she has to defend herself at that moment because a person here who's making light of like kidnapping 11-year-olds and having sex with them is like, an abortion is serious. And she's like, wait, I'm the one that's not taking things seriously? Yeah. So then she has to like try to defend her rationale of it. And that's when we get the reveal that Adam Driver's like, yeah, I never use condoms. And that's why it takes me 25 years to come when I'm having sex with you.
He also says, no girls ever asked me to use condoms. Yeah. And then he's shocked that he even used one last night. Yeah. And it's like, wow, okay.
She's like, we use condoms every time. He's like, oh, I guess we do. It's like, bro.
This guy. I mean, he's playing that role, man.
Like, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know
anything about. I just knew he was in the show.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything.
About his character, and I was just, dude, he's so uncomfortable. Those conversations make my skin crawl.
Yeah. It's. But what? I do love when he tries to comfort her. He has the line, "I'm totally fine, and you're totally pretty."
Yeah,
like just the douchiest douche.
Yeah, and then it's like, don't try to kiss me, don't try to kiss me. Oh, okay, kiss me. It's like, God, dude, this guy.
I gotta say,
so
as
awful.
Much as he's uncomfortable, you still want to. It's like you want him in a scene because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, he's a wild card.
He's a wild card, and you need one of those sometimes.
He's definitely an interesting.
I'm not rooting for her to stick with him.
No, I hope not.
But
yeah,
like get out of that. That's
what I keep coming back to is like, why would you go back? This guy is like such a douche, and like you don't even seem to be enjoying the sex that you're having with him, you know? So like, I don't get what the appeal is here. So anyway, you got anything more on that like awkward conversation?
No, that's that's about it on that one. So then we end up going back to their apartment, and we see Marnie with her boyfriend in the morning.
Yep.
And
they're having like an argument about like, sometimes I just want you to fuck me, and he's like, but I respect you too much.
Yeah.
And I've honestly had that conversation sometimes with women that I've dated.
Yeah.
I've had it where, because if it's a woman that you love, you know,
well, yeah,
it's hard to do disrespectful things to them.
What Adam's doing to Hannah is because, she's just one random chick. Like, he's not like, oh, man, this is
the mother of my children.
Yeah, like, and it's a weird thing because it's a hard balance to play in that. Because, like you were saying earlier, if Marnie does hook up with Adam, if that happens, she will be like, I do not want that extreme level of that. Like, that's not what I was
She just wants a little spice.
There's a little bit of spice. But she also was, like, kind of checked out in that relationship anyway. So, like, she wants someone different. That's what's been implied.
Yeah. I mean, in the last episode, she was like, just be somebody else.
Yeah.
And this one, they're arguing. Yeah. She's, like, checked out for sure.
So she wants the role play that I'm sure Hannah does not want on the other side. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say like role play. She just wants a bit more like harshness. Like, because the argument that they're having is like, you're not a real man.
Well, basically. She was saying when she made fun of him when he's like, oh, when we made love, and she's like, no, I don't want love.
Yeah.
I don't want you to make love.
She was like, you mean when you fuck me?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. It's like, yo, Charlie, you do gotta fucking nut up a little bit, though.
At that point when she's calling you out on that, then you gotta do that. But he's just like, that's just not him.
Yeah.
And she knew that, like, it's not gonna work out between them.
It's been 4 years.
Oh, they've been together 4 years?
That's what they said.
Okay.
So it's been 4 years that they've been together. So she's been with him since she was 19. And it's like, when he started having sex with her doggy style, it was like the first time he's ever done it. And he's just like, he wasn't even moving.
No.
He wasn't even like humping. He just put it in and went just like, oh God, oh my God, this is so incredible.
Yeah.
But so I do appreciate the, I guess, dialogue about masculinity and like what makes a guy, because she's wanting more of like a, I don't give a fuck, like a cavalier kind of quote unquote manly man, like the stereotypical, like she's talking about like guys don't give a shit, like they'll just do whatever and they don't care what I think about it, like that's what
kind of what Hannah tells her when she comes in. She's like, yeah, you don't want that. And then Marnie actually brings up a point when she's like, well, he shouldn't do that to you, he's not your boyfriend. Yeah. But I'm like, that's why he does that. Exactly. Because he's not her boyfriend. And your boyfriend treats you with respect because he's not. But the thing is, if she doesn't, she wants to be respected, but she also wants a little roughhousing in the interim. So he's got to like fulfill that need for her. Because they've been dating since they were 19, and what is she, like 20, 24?
She's at 23.
Yeah. So like, she's hitting that like, all right. It's too young to be like locked down that early. Like they're not, like, she needs that like wild phase. I think every person needs a little wild phase in their life. And if you don't get that out, it's gonna come out at some point.
Yeah, it feels like Charlie is like set on like, this is my wife, whatever. Yeah. But dude, it cracked me up when he left and he was like, all right, goodbye, ladies. I mean, sluts. You're a slut.
Even though when he said it was like, oh man, you could tell it like burns his tongue to say it.
Yeah, like it was funny. Like, because Hannah walks in and he's like, all right, goodbye, sluts. Yeah. You're a slut.
She doesn't even really have a big reaction to it, too, which is great. But I will say, I had a big reaction to the refrigerator.
Oh, yeah, the refrigerator.
They balanced it out a little bit by putting a poster of butterflies.
Yeah, I didn't know.
At first, when I saw it in the background, I was like, oh, they filled more magnets on it. And then there's a whole thing where she's eating yogurt or something at the fridge. She does eat something at the fridge.
Oh, yeah, she eats a yogurt. Okay, I guess that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, because you're focused on the butterfly.
Well, I was more focused on the fridge at that point because you fucking brought up OCD shit about it, and I was like, oh, goddamn, that's
now
so
I'm going to be like, I'm locked in on the fridge.
I'm locked in on it too. Well, also, like, who has like a printed out poster of a butterfly?
It was like one of those taxidermy type posters too. It wasn't like,
I don't think it was there in the last episode.
No, it was nothing there last episode. Yeah. I don't know if it was somewhere on set or anything, but they just put it on the fridge now. So it kind of balances out the weight at least.
If it was there, I didn't notice. Probably because somebody was eating or some shit, and I just couldn't stop doing it, paying attention. So my question.
Okay.
This is what I have next. I don't know if I'm skipping a scene.
Well, Hannah Googles STDs right after that in the bedroom and worries about what comes up on the sides of condoms.
Yeah, that's something she keeps coming back to in this episode. Like, stuff, the stuff that comes up on the sides. But so then she calls Marnie, who's at work.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I think while we're with Jessa's getting an abortion, I think I'm going to get an STD test. Can you make an appointment for me? And I was like, does she work at the... What does Marnie do?
And Marnie is sitting at a desk. Does she have a headset on?
It looks like she's like a receptionist somewhere.
And it's a guy in the background that looks like an intern stocking a fridge.
Yeah.
And I have no concept.
No.
What she does for a living. Why is she... It was like it was like Hannah was calling Marnie as her personal assistant.
Yeah,
to schedule her an appointment at that. And we haven't even... At that point, I don't even know if we know that Marnie has scheduled the abortion.
Yeah.
Did
Marnie schedule the abortion?
Marnie scheduled the abortion. She arranged everything.
Is Marnie just everyone's assistant in this?
She's just sitting at this desk and she might have, I don't know, that could have been another apartment, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It's just, you got Hannah calling her and like, hey, set up an appointment for me to get my clam checked.
Yeah.
And then Marnie's like, okay, I gotcha. It's like, wait, why is that your responsibility? Why can't Hannah do
there
that?
was a little debate of whether Marnie needs to get checked too. And she's like, no, I've been with the same guy for this long, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, like, it was just so strange that and I don't think you have to go too deep into her job, but it wasn't like we saw her walk into an office, sit down. Like, you literally just see her at a desk, no one else, and a guy in the back.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I know they're gonna show what she does at some point later in the series, but like, I would love it if we never knew what Marnie did for
a great running joke. And like every time you see her at work is a different office.
Yeah, you just like someplace and she's just starts yelling
weird
at some like intern in the back.
Yeah, she did yell at the intern. She was like, "Stop listening."
Yeah,
it's like, we're talking about STDs and abortions and shit. It's
full
like,
volume.
Number one, that's not professional to be doing.
Yeah, is there anyone else around?
Who knows? Dude, I don't know what the fuck. Is she the boss? Like,
whatever she does, she could apparently probably afford the apartment herself.
Yeah, apparently, because Marnie doesn't have a job and she can still pay rent.
Yeah.
So after that,
they meet up with Jessa and Shoshana.
Finally, Shoshana meets...
More eating. They're eating froyo or something on a bench.
Yeah.
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 They're going to always be eating, man.
Well, I feel like there wasn't a lot of eating of the froyo, because I just distinctly remember Hannah holding 2 of them, and like everyone's just blabbing at each other.
Yeah, they were ping-ponging back and forth.
But this is the point where I was like, oh, Shoshana's finally like in the crew. She finally met up with Hannah.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, I was like, yeah, they're there.
Yeah, they're all there except for Marnie.
We still haven't had all 4 girls in the same room at the same time yet.
Definitely not. We have not had that at all. But they're blabbing about some book called what is it? Hello, Ladies or something. And it's like, Shoshana has this book about how a lady should act and how she should be treated, and like what's a date and all this stuff. And then everybody has like an issue with them, and like some of the points are good in the book, where it's like, if he asks you to hang out, that's not a date. And I'm like,
probably not a date, but like a hangout. If he's always asking you to hang out, then it's a red flag. If it's the first time you're hanging out, sure. Yeah. A hangout pre-date. One-on-one dating situations are not, it's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, if you can have someone lighten the tension by hanging out with a group of people, and you can like bounce back and forth a little bit, and then you do the one-on-one, so at least you have like a little info about the person before you go in. Like, you can be like, oh yeah, remember at that party that thing happened. Like, it's like when you go, it's like if you did dinner before a movie, you do dinner after the movie, just so you have at least that one common thread to talk about. Yeah, like that's what the movie gives you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
you're looking at me like you've been doing it the other way.
I mean, everybody, it's always dinner and a movie.
Oh, yeah, I think the dinner's got to come after the movie. That way you have the thing to talk about the movie. And
Man, I got to have you on my other podcast, the Dating is Hard podcast, so you can come up with these theories. Everybody, check out the Dating is Hard podcast. Subscribe, rate, review.
So people are tuning in this because they want to know about girls.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that does make sense now, because then you can talk about it, see your thoughts. But yeah, they're talking about all these rules for ladies, and then Jessa and Hannah. Jessa mainly has like issues with all of them, and with good reason. Like some of the points that Shoshana is reading from this book are bullshit. Yeah, and then Shoshana walks away, and like she's obviously upset because she's like, I need to get an abortion today or whatever. She's just like flipping her lid, and which I also still don't think she's pregnant at this point. So then she's like going on a rant about like, I'm a woman, I can do whatever I want, because the book said like if you have sex doggy style, the man doesn't respect you. Yeah. And she was
which ties into our opening scenes, which is well done, well crafted story.
The great callback. And she's like, if I want to get fucked doggy style, I'll get fucked doggy style. Like you're saying that I don't.
One of my favorite lines. She's like, what if I want to pretend I have udders? Yeah. Which is so random. I love it.
Yeah. But that was a good agency moment for all of them, where they're like, you can't tell me that because I do this, I'm not a lady.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what this show in general is going to be kind of like doing. And it was like, I don't like women. Like they later walk away, and she's just talking to Hannah, and like she's telling her that I don't like women telling other women how they have to act. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
I was like, I was like, great points. Jessa, I'm liking you. And then she's like, I want to have babies with every member of every race and have all this like a union. And that's when I wrote down, all right, Jessa's fucking unstable now.
Jessa's going to make some points throughout. But
well,
like, she's making some points, but she's still going to be... I wasn't sure when she brought up the like...
This is where she lost me. She said that going on dates is for lesbians. And I was like, well, all right, now, Jessa, come on.
Yeah, that was a turning point. And then it's like, I do want to have kids. I want to have a baby with different men of different races. And I was just like, now you're overcompensating the abortion thing. But I get it. You can be emotional. You're about to have an abortion.
Yeah. Which I don't think is real.
And I guess she's now, which you don't think is real. And now she has to try to defend it to Hannah the same way Hannah was trying to defend the lightness of an abortion to Adam.
There's a lot of defenseness, a lot of self-consciousness, and be like, fuck you, I can do whatever I want. And So, the last thing I have on this is that Jessa seems very unstable.
No, Jessa's just that wild card European cousin, you know?
Yeah, I don't think
like
that
road
exists.
trip style, you know, drop in.
Euro trip.
Yeah.
All right.
Euro trip.
Moving on to the next thing that goes on this episode that I have is that it's time for Hannah's job interview. Hannah has a big job interview, and lo and behold, who's it with? It is with famous comedian Mike Birbiglia.
It is. It was like, there. I was like, of course, we're going to see a bunch of people pop up on this show. I forgot this New York-based show. You're going to get all
those New York comics. So I've heard like there are a bunch of like weird cameos in this show but I just don't really remember them, and it's like foggy. But then I was like, Mike Birbiglia is in it.
The thing that's going to be my favorite is I always love seeing this. Like, we're going to see people who are now famous, like the Adam Driver thing.
Yeah, like famous for something else.
Yeah, like that person was like doing a bit role in this show. That's the joy of watching a show so many years later. Yeah.
So Mike Birbiglia is hosting Hannah for this job interview. Did it say like what kind of company it was?
Publishing, writing, literary.
It seemed like some kind of those bullshit white collar job, you know.
It's something in her field of like writing and literature and stuff. Not exactly sure what the job title is. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, she's just trying to get a job, which is good.
Yeah,
because last episode she was flipping a shit because she didn't want to have to get a job.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, this is what we expected.
Steps in the positive direction.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah. Hannah Horvath. Thing I have written down here about this is the job interview is incredibly unprofessional. It felt way more like a call.
Well, I feel like you've gone on more corporate-y job interviews than, say, I have. Like, I've gone on interviews. Well, it definitely is unprofessional at a certain point, for sure. But, like, I've been at...
It felt very like they were flirting to me. Like, it felt like a coffee date.
Yeah. Well, I've done this trick, which is weird, and like I didn't mean to do it the first time, but it worked the first time. If you go to a job interview with like a book in your hand and like you put it down on the desk while you're like talking to them, they will eventually ask you about the book, and you'll start small talking about the book. And like they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, I read that," and just like blah 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 blah, and it just gives you.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring Curious George next time.
Like bring something not super obscure, but something that you are genuinely like if you're reading it or have some interest in it. That
I'm gonna have to have you on my business tips podcast. Business is hard.
Podcast you. Oh, but no, yeah, like I've gone to interviews and we just talk about random stuff like that. Okay, like they were talking about Greenpoint and like their neighborhoods and like
the bars
you go to, and I feel like that's just like that easy small talk.
Yeah,
and then once we get to him looking over her resume, which I think was fun.
Yeah, it seems like she was a shoo-in for this job. The guy Mike Birbiglia was a big fan of her, and it seemed like things were going well.
Yeah,
and then.
In sitcom-y fashion, in cable sitcom-y fashion, she makes a date rape joke, which is a really well-crafted date rape joke. I will say,
it was
as a joke. I like it.
Yeah. So what happened was Mike Birbiglia. They were talking about where they went to college. Mike Birbiglia said that he went to Syracuse, and Hannah goes, she goes, "Oh, that's really interesting that you went to Syracuse because I read a statistic that said that date rape was like a huge problem at Syracuse until the year you graduated."
And everything gets real quiet right there.
And it's just like...
And at that moment, were you thinking he was going to like laugh or make another joke off of it? Or did you think it was going to go downhill?
I knew it was going to go downhill.
I thought he was going to like straight face it for a little bit and then and then like come out and say something.
I think this is a great scene, though.
It's a
like
great scene,
uncomfortableness, because then it's that silence, and then she goes, "Oh, that was a joke about how you're a date rapist, basically." And he was like, "I don't know what you think is appropriate."
Yeah. And I would say, like, that's a joke you shouldn't make in a workplace, but a joke that if you're making in a workplace in 2012, you have to do it with a person that you know.
Yeah, that's
for really well. Like, they know that this joke is coming, and it's like, it's still not a joke you should really make ever.
Yeah,
like,
maybe like a happy hour joke after work.
Yeah.
But definitely not in the office.
It's a joke you don't make with coworkers, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a joke you make at a party with friends, and you got to be really...
Well, also, Mike Birbiglia seems so much older than her, too. Yeah. So I would say it's also something like someone around your age, maybe, too.
Yeah.
But it was just like, that does not fly.
Like right now, Charles Barkley is getting a lot of flack for...
Chuck is?
Yeah, Charles Barkley, he was talking to some reporter. He's like, I don't hit women, but I want to hit you or something. For like, to some reporter.
Jesus.
And like, it's one of those things where like, you could have probably gotten away with saying that in like peak like 80s, 90s stuff. But Phoenix like right now, Charles like Barkley. Just saying that just does not... And it's fine. We got to get rid of that. We can't just have... That's the thing. The jokes make light of it, which makes it okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. Once you get rid of that, then you can like start rebuilding and like get back to normal.
It's a very touchy subject.
Yeah. But it's interesting that she's bringing it. Like, and she does it apropos of nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's not a moment where he's like, "Oh, I just beat you with a joke. Time for you to hit a joke back." He's like looking at her resume. All she had to do is shake his hand, and she got the job. Yeah. Basically, it's just a formality, and she just went right for it.
She didn't put her foot in her mouth. She put her foot in her throat, dude. Like fucking
up to the knee.
God,
like,
what a risk. But you know, sometimes you gotta take that swing.
When you have that joke locked and loaded, she would have hated herself for not saying it.
Exactly. Do you got anything else for this right here?
No.
Are we moving on?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened next, but I just wrote, I hate Jessa.
Well, what happens next is Jessa, instead of going to her abortion, walks into a bar.
Oh, yeah, she walks into a bar and says
these things. She said,
these things never start on time anyway. The thing that she's referring to is her own abortion.
I love her walking into the bar asking what time it is to the bartender.
Yeah, she has a cell phone.
Which is just funny because later a guy walks in and asks, "Do you have a payphone?" And the bartender's like, "What?
Why would we have a payphone?"
And then Jessa gives him her phone so he can call. I'm like, that phone could have solved both questions when you walked in here.
Yep.
You could have found out the time.
Yep.
And there's no explanation why this one guy does not have a phone. It's 2012. I mean, he would have had a cell phone.
Yeah.
It could have been not charged, but
also like payphones like barely exist in New York at all anymore.
That bar would have had a phone though. They wouldn't have had a payphone. They would have had a regular phone.
Yeah, they would have had a regular. They would have a payphone.
Yeah, inside. No. Okay.
If they did, it would like lead to a secret hot dog restaurant or something. You pull the phone and say a secret password.
That's a deep cut for you, New York.
Yeah. That's for all the Williamsburg New Yorkers listening and all that shit in East Village. Bullshit. So while Jessa is at this bar,
but she gets a white Russian,
getting a white Russian,
just skipping out on an abortion.
Not really caring. All the other girls are waiting for her at the clinic. Mm-hmm. Marnie and Hannah have some kind of conversation about STDs. Who knows?
Yeah, they're at the clinic. They're talking about like, I don't remember exactly what they talked about in that first scene.
Yeah, the first one I don't.
The first scene, but they're just like talking about getting tested, and Marnie's like, I feel like all of these intercut, so we can like kind of just bump them all together. Yeah. Like the Jess at the bar scene gets intercut with Marnie and Hannah and Shoshana at the sex clinic. Basically at the clinic, Marnie says one of the funniest things where like she's upset that Jessa is ruining this abortion that she planned for.
That was a great line.
Which is so
about like, I threw a great abortion.
And then Hannah calls her out on it, which is like, okay, these guys are friends. And we learned that they've been friends since, or at least she's known her since she was 10.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, that's what I'm confused about with Shoshana. Shoshana is like the most confusing character for me because it seems like none of them know anything about her, and it doesn't seem like any of them necessarily like her.
Yeah, is she only their friend because she stays? That's where Jessa stays when she visits?
Maybe. It could
Jessa
be like one of those
is
things.
from there. She doesn't live in New York.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah,
because none of them know... Like, none of them know that she's a virgin, which I could fucking figure out.
It would make sense if... And, I mean, they're kind of alluding to that when she's talking about the book, the lady's book in the park. But it was one of those things where if she was like a neighbor... She would be in the vicinity, and she came over a lot. But I feel like she lives in a whole different part of town too. Almost like, I think she's going to be the X Factor wild card of one of the best characters, like one of the fun characters to deal with. Like she's that almost voice of reason, outside perspective person that you have to have in something like that. You know,
all I have written down here is what is Shoshana's deal? She's a child. I just don't. I'm so confused by her.
What is she, 22? She's a couple years younger than them, I think. Yeah, she said she's 22.
Okay.
So she's a year or so younger than them.
Younger.
I don't know. I think it's interesting because I could see Hannah knowing her and then Marnie not, because Marnie's just like Hannah's friend, but like they seem like they're all... Yeah, it's still a little vague of how she fits into the crew.
I could see how like Hannah would enjoy like hanging out with her, and Marnie's just constantly pissed by her.
Yeah,
because she's just like such a naive kind of idiot person, like ditzy, but she's well intentioned at least. Like I mean, she made a joke not necessarily a joke. The joke was they're at the STD clinic, and she says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get a sex check. It's going to be cool. Like, you get to have sex with someone, and then they ask about it, or a sex test."
She makes that joke really close to
the reveal.
Which like, I thought if she made that joke on the bench when they were eating froyo or something, that would be interesting, like, teaser for it.
Yeah.
But she says that, and it is really weird. Like,
I was like,
what she said in there. And
what?
Like, and then you're like, then when they reveal, which we haven't dove too deep into, when she reveals that she is a virgin, it's just to Marnie. Yeah. Hannah's already gone in to get her STD check. And Marnie says, like, she doesn't really know how to react to it. She asks her, "Oh, have you given a blowjob before?" And then she's like, "Yeah, no, I haven't."
Yeah.
And then she's just like, "Sex is overrated." And
I love when she said, "I was about to give a blowjob, but it was in the woods and it was spooky." Yes.
And Marnie doesn't know what to do right here, so she says, "I hit a puppy once when I had my learner's permit," and you're like, "Okay," and that's the scene.
Yeah, that's the scene. Like, that's just her relating to a virgin. Like, like what?
Hitting a puppy is not related to not having sex. Not equivalent whatsoever.
Not at all. But I do understand, because Shoshana is like, "I'm a virgin, you probably think I'm a loser." Yeah. And I could understand that, because Marnie seems like so put together and like, "I've got my life together, like this is how you do things, blah, 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 blah."
Well, really what it goes back to is that when we first meet Shoshana, she has Sex in the City poster and is talking about Sex in the City. Yeah. So she's ingested that shell. Mm-hmm. And like, for her being a virgin, she's just like, I haven't, like, all of her like sex stuff has come from that book, that lady's book that she has, and like Sex in the City. Like, she has no frame of reference of her own of what like a sexual relationship is.
Yeah.
And she's also probably feeling like a huge loser when she's watching, like, Sex and the City was like this iconic, like, yes, finally.
Well, how do you not know what an STD test is?
Well, I think she was just at that point was saying it as like, I would love to even be in a position where I needed to get an STD check. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she was saying it as like, what is an STD check? I don't think she's that clueless, you know?
I don't know. It seemed to me like she was that clueless. That's why I wrote down that she's like a child, because...
Take yourself back to being a 22-year-old virgin, Joe. And the thought process...
That ain't me, Chief.
And the thought process that would go to when you're like in a clinic where your friend's getting checked for STDs, another one's about to have an abortion. And you're just like, you're the one... And she's the odd one out anyway, just in the circle.
Well,
like, she's just... It's one of those things where, like, a kid wanting to play, like it's weird, like a kid wanting to play with his older cousins and everyone's playing it sport and you're too little to play it. Like she's like, I'm not even on the same fit. Like I can't even have conversations with them about this.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done it. Like she would love to just be a part. Like Sex and the City was all about having sex with people and sitting at a table and talking about it.
Yeah.
She can't do that.
That's true.
And she's just on the outs right there. So that's
well,
way too deep dive into Shoshana.
Well, to me, after 2 episodes, we're like giving her a character like the next episode she like gets killed off or something.
Oh, she's in those posters. There's 4 of them.
But to me, it seems like none of them understand sex or how it works at all. Like none of them are. It seems like none of them have a grasp of like how STDs work and how you get pregnant and like.
That you can get pregnant with a condom.
Yeah, like Hannah like doesn't. Yeah. She keeps referring to it as like the stuff that comes out the side, and Shoshana's a virgin, so she doesn't know what she's talking about. And Marnie seems like the one that's like most on top of things, but even she seems like she doesn't have a grasp of it.
And we skipped over something with Marnie, and when she's talking like she's thinking that she's barren because she hasn't been like she hasn't been using condoms regularly and like hasn't played the safe sex game, which you would think she would be the character that she is. And like that she was like, oh, like was she almost envious that like Jessa was almost like having like a
it
possibility?
Seemed that way.
Yeah, like which was interesting, and it's just like
she was like, maybe I'm barren, and
maybe I'm barren.
Hannah was like, well, maybe Charlie has a low sperm count. And she's like, well, Charlie definitely has a low sperm.
He's not a man's man.
This guy is getting kicked, dude.
I know.
I think it's gonna come. Here's my theory. This is a side theory from your theory. I feel
my theory
like
of Adam
she's gonna hook up with Adam.
Yeah, just as much as like one night.
That could also coincide with my theory now.
Okay, we got theories for an old show.
I feel like maybe Charlie is like a freak. Like later on, he'll probably become like some kind of kink dom kind of thing, and we're just gonna throw some wild speculation.
I'm gonna let this be your theory.
Yeah. He's gonna become some kind of kink dom thing just to try to impress her or whatever, and then he just like, then he can't have sex without like a gag in his mouth or some shit. So he's gonna go off the deep end, man.
So your theory is that's gonna happen, but you don't believe that Marnie could just start falling for Adam Driver's character?
No.
Okay.
I think that she wants.
It's more plausible for Charlie to just go complete sex maniac style instead of Marnie doing it.
Here's the trajectory of this that I'm going to fit in Marnie having sex with Adam, all right? So Charlie goes on. This is how I
People are loving this because they already know. They already know what happens. So they're just listening to this nonsense.
This show is so old.
They're like, why am I listening to that? I know what happens in this theory, but go for it.
Okay. So Marnie and Charlie kind of like break up, right? Or they start to have like an open relationship or something, all right? Marnie has sex with Adam. She realizes she doesn't like to be treated like a whore or whatever, how Adam fucks Hannah. Mm-hmm. Charlie goes on his own exploration that we follow because he wants to be more of like a man and like dominant for Marnie. And through his experiences, he starts to get like into like S&M kind of shit, like 50 Shades of Grey shit. And then so Marnie comes back to Charlie being like, I miss you, like you were the right guy.
How is she even talking to him with the GIMP mask on?
No. So she comes back after like fucking Adam, let's say 3 times.
Ooh, okay. 3 times.
3 times. All right. Maybe once. Between 1 and 3 times.
Okay.
She comes back to Charles like, I don't like how this guy's treating me. Blah, 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 blah. I need you back in my life. And he's like, well, that's interesting because I've been doing some research into the stuff that you were talking about, and I'm a whole new Charlie. And then so Charlie starts having
research into the doggy style that you've been talking about. I want to see that montage of him flipping through books and looking at porn and taking notes.
So she comes back. And then he's like, well, I'm a brand new Charlie. And then they start fucking, and he starts fucking her, like, disrespectfully. Okay. And she's like, oh, no, my sweet Charlie's been ruined because of my actions. Because I wanted him to man up and be more freaky and spice it up. And he just went off the deep end. And now she's not satisfied with Charlie either. And she only has herself to blame.
Okay. That, I don't see that happening, but yeah. I don't see that happening at all, but okay.
You can see how it's plausible.
Yeah, anything is plausible 2 episodes.
Yeah, I don't know anything about fucking Charlie. I don't know anything about Marty.
Let's get back to Jessa.
Let's get back to the wild speculation.
Let's get back to Jessa. So Jessa's at the bar.
Jessa's at the bar.
Guy walks in. He needs to use a payphone. It's 2012, baby. Needs to use a payphone. Can't.
Nope.
And then Jessa ends up giving her cell phone to him. He makes a phone call. Says, "Oh, you got a bunch of
weird milk
messages?"
mustache.
Yeah, she's drinking White Russians, and he makes the most like generic phone call ever.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just calling. I'll let you call you back later.
I also think this is a setup. I think that's fucking fake call. I don't believe he actually called his mom to be like, "Hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay." Like,
you think he's taken in her?
I think that.
You think that's the plan?
I think that guy.
He's like, meet me at the bar. I found one.
No, that's like the most bullshit phone call. He's like, hey, Mom, it's whatever.
I just
Jake,
chalked that
whatever.
up to being like,
I just wanted to call and let you know that I'm okay, or like, I hope that you're okay, and I'll talk to you later. It's like, how is she going to get into contact with me?
I just feel like it's a character we're never going to see again.
Yeah.
And they just were like, here, we need him to have a reason to have a phone call to talk to her. Yeah, and then he asks, like,
that's just bad writing. Or conspiracy theory Joe's hat's on again. Yeah. That was a fake phone call.
I think it was one of those non-consequential. They probably didn't even write lines for him. They were like, here, just call your mom, say something.
Yeah.
Who knows? But then he looks at her and goes like, what are you drinking? Milk? And she's like,
no,
yeah.
He goes, what are you drinking? And she says, milk.
And then they cut to close-up face, milk mustache, smile,
gross,
flirtation.
Bad teeth. Of course, bad teeth. She's British.
Is she? Where's she from?
Who the fuck knows, dude?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm more into my theories now.
I'm in my Let's get away from your theory and get into the actual meat of the show. So they end up hooking up in the bathroom of that empty bar.
Mm-hmm. While everyone's still waiting, it's been an hour since her abortion was supposed to happen. It's 2:15. Shoshana's calling her, and Marnie's like, "It's really rude that you're late to your abortion." Blah blah blah.
So they're in there.
They're hooking up in the bathroom.
Yeah, and he starts fingering her, and comes back, and he's blood on the fingertips. He's like, "You're bleeding," and she looks at it, and she is overjoyed, and starts making out with him harder. Yep. And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Before that, she goes, "Stick your hand down my pants," and he goes, "What, like this?" And then she goes, "Don't ever fucking ask me that again." Yeah. It's like, what?
She's the Adam in this situation. She's the Adam. She's the what is it, Samantha? Sex and the City.
I never watched it. Well, I've seen like 5 episodes. That's the next podcast after this one.
You can do that one.
Yeah, you can do that one. But yeah, and
so that's the thing where she is on her period,
right? That's what I was thinking. And then my period was proven right. She wasn't pregnant at all.
So your theory though was that she was lying about it and knew that she wasn't pregnant, right?
Yeah.
I think her period was late because there is a conversation with Marnie and Hannah talking about periods, and like Marnie's like, my period comes exactly at the same time every month.
Yeah, and Hannah's like, I never know when my period's happening.
Yeah,
all my underwear is stained
because of.
It's like, God damn, dude.
It's fine. You're gonna get those jokes in the show.
Yeah. I'm not.
You're judging her as a person out cleaning her.
Yeah. Like, I understand period jokes. Like, that's par for the course. Yeah. This is a women's show. But, like, the image of her underwear with stains on them just grossed me out so much.
Yeah, it's always going to gross you out, you know? But this is Workaholics. You're going to get shit-stained jokes. I hate
Workaholics, too.
So
after the reveal of the period blood or whatever's happening.
Yeah, like, my initial, when it happened, I was like, just like, because we were talking about abortions, and then I was just thinking she like lost the baby.
That's what I kind of thought.
And I was like, No, they're not going that. Like, she's not like...
That'd be heavy for episode 2.
Yeah, what is that? Well, I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. She's...
Miscarriage?
Yeah, I thought she was having... I was like, they're not going miscarriage. Like, because she would probably react a little differently. And she couldn't have miscarried that early, probably. I don't know what stage it is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll probably learn.
Wait, how long has she been pregnant? It would have had to been a couple months?
I have no idea, dude.
Okay, whatever. She's got a period. She's not pregnant.
We won't even... There's blood coming from her vagina.
Just blood coming. Which also... like, yeah, that could be a bunch of different things. Yeah. Which I thought we were going to wrap up this episode with a wrap-up of, like, what that was or a little bit of a payoff.
Yeah, but instead, what we wrap up on is fucking Hannah getting checked. And she's basically running a stand-up set on the doctor about AIDS.
Yeah, she has a big fear of HIV, which turns to AIDS because she's not an idiot.
Yeah.
And she's... Marnie brings that up, and they talk about that before she goes in to get her checkup with the doctor. Mm-hmm. And she goes... And then when she's, like, on the table, she just goes on a full soliloquy.
Yeah, she runs, like, a 3 to 4 minute set of, like, stand-up.
You'd think a mic was just going to drop down.
It felt like this was her act a little. Like, this felt like before she wrote this show, she did this act on stage as a stand-up. Yeah. And she found some way to squeeze it into her TV show.
And it just goes on for a long time.
The doctor doesn't react at all.
And then the doctor checks her out a little bit. And she goes on about, because she's afraid, like, the doctor gives her some real statistics on HIV, and she's worried, like, if I have AIDS, that means I'm going to die or whatever. And she's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you couldn't pay me enough to be 24 again.
Yeah.
And she goes, they don't pay me at all.
Yep.
And you're like, okay. And, like, it ends with the overhead shot looking down at her as she's getting her checked out,
vagina inspected.
Yeah.
And then cut to credits.
I
was like, what?
Yeah.
Just gonna leave me like that?
And it was, like, interesting because it left there where I was like, Hannah getting checked for STDs was her own, like, neuroses.
Yeah.
Of, like...
Well, she ended it with being like, maybe I just want to get AIDS. And the doctor was like, you do not want to get AIDS, you idiot.
Yeah, and it was just like... Yeah, I don't know which way to actually take that line,
man.
But I just felt like the story seemed like it was more like it opened with her sex scene and Marnie's sex scene, and then like the abortion coming, and it just seemed like it became less about. I know it's Hannah's story overall because she's star of it, but it just felt like finding out if she had no STDs would have been like the payoff because she kind of brought us all up on herself. Like a little bit. Well, also Adam was like, "I don't use condoms with girls," and seems so aloof. He doesn't, like, so she's worried about the stuff coming up on the sides, which the doctor's like, "You mean semen?" It's like yeah. And so it just seemed weird that it wouldn't just like pay off, like, because this isn't like a cliffhanger where next episode I'm wondering, does she have an STD? Like,
it didn't feel like a cliffhanger. It just felt like, incomplete.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
Yeah. And at least the pilot like left a lot for you to say, okay, I kind of know what the show's going to be, but I'm interested to see her go through traversing life and this. But this one doesn't leave you with like, I gotta see what happens next. I kind of want to see Marnie yell at Jessa.
Yeah, I really want to see that because Jessa's a piece of shit.
And then she can be like, were you not pregnant? Like, I'm interested to see that, but that wasn't where we like left off at.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's episode 2, everybody. Vagina Panic. You got any final thoughts?
No, I'm happy they got the fridge situation
we got that
under control.
We got that figured out. We're going to keep an eye on fridge situation going on. I'm going to fucking definitely pay more attention if people are eating.
I will keep track of the food eating.
Good Lord, dude. That first episode, she's eating spaghetti. It was so disgusting to me.
Didn't bother me at all.
All right. Well, think that.
Wait, what do you think? Before we go, does this live up to anything that you thought possible on the show? Like, what did you think coming in? Like, we're only 2 episodes in, but.
So, at the beginning of this episode, you said that you felt like this episode was a miss. And for me, it was a hit until the ending.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was a pretty good episode. There were funny jokes in it. Like, I cracked up a couple times.
Yeah.
but then it was just like, oh, it's over. Like it just didn't seem done.
Yeah, I guess that's when, like when I started, this was my initial reaction, just having watched it, and it kind of leaves you with a little letdown.
Yeah.
Like, and I not letdown as in like it's sad, it's not upbeat, it's not like teasery. It just felt, like you said, incomplete.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, it's kind of a miss, because the pilot, it was like, oh, you might not like this or that, but you still are invested. It wasn't enough to be like, no, I'm not gonna watch the next episode.
Yeah.
And I feel like the show, like, in talking about it, they did a lot of good stuff, paralleling.
Yeah, I mean,
Hannah
there was
and
a
Marnie.
good.
Like, it's really well crafted.
It's
show.
very well weaved together. I think this was a good episode. All of the characters, like, I like Marnie.
Yeah.
I like Shoshana. I like
want to find out
Hannah.
more about her. Yeah.
I want to fucking slam Jess's head into a wall for just
Jess
being a
is the one
selfish
that really-
prick. She's such a bitch, a selfish asshole. I do not like her at all.
Tell us how you really feel, Jeff.
I can't even come up with a good theory for where her character's going because I hope that she just gets killed off in the show. I just do not enjoy her. She's fucking abusing
And it's
her
interesting.
friends.
It's interesting to see her balance with Shoshana, her cousin, who's so like
she's so sweet,
innocent, and sweet, and like naive in a good way, and like in a way like you should be naive since you don't know these things.
Yeah. I don't like Adam. I think Adam's a weirdo.
No. Yeah. I'm intrigued to watch him. Like you're intrigued to watch characters on film and TV that are so strange that you don't want to ever know them in real life, but you want to watch them from afar. You just hope that it doesn't inflict too much harm on Hannah.
I mainly want to see him interact with other people.
Yes.
Because right now it's just his
and there's no
scenes-
reason for him to.
No, there's no reason at all. But right now she's just friends with benefits with him.
Yep.
And he's only in it when she's fucking him. I'm pretty sure that they're going to like start dating because he's like a recurring character in this show. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to see him interact with Marnie and like how weird he is, and Marnie's just going to be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Yeah.
And per your theory, she's going to be like, "You're a fucking idiot, and I can't believe I fucked you." I like Charlie. I just don't think Charlie's right for Marnie.
Charlie's so hard to watch.
It's just painful because he's so like earnest and sweet, and you just know it's going down the toilet for him.
It's like it's like almost the Fleabag situation. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but it's like her boyfriend early in it like has some interesting. He's kind of close to where this Charlie character is.
It's so unfortunate. Like I feel bad for him, but like,
but all the characters have their own thing. No characters are like, oh, that's basically the same person. Like everyone's, and that much of it is like, all right, I'm willing to. I can't wait to see all four of the girls in the same scene.
Yeah,
together.
we've yet to see that. Where they're all hanging out because Jessa blew off her own abortion, so it just left the three other girls hanging. It was weird.
I'm kind of okay them not having their first scene of all four of them together in an abortion in a
that would
clinic.
be so feminist, wouldn't it, though, Vance?
I got nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it, but it would be very on brand, I feel like.
Yeah.
Based on the articles I've read about Lena Dunham and the opinions that she's shared.
Okay. Well, we'll have to dive into those on a different episode.
Yeah, that'll be like the aftermath episodes. Like where Lena Dunham and where are all these people now? Behind the music. Anything else?
No, I think
Should we wrap it up?
I think we hit it all.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to Boys Watching Girls. This has been episode 2, Vagina Panic. Look forward to next week's episode.
What's the title of this one?
Episode 3 is titled All Adventurous Women Do.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed for a teaser.
Yeah, there you go. You didn't need to have the
I didn't need
the doctor.
Nope.
All you just need to know is all adventurous women do.
Yes.
All right. Well, this has been Boys Watching Girls. I've been Joe Welke.
I'm Vance.
Thanks for stopping by and listening.